You're live, Mr. Perot.
Thank you, Sasha. Welcome everyone to tonight's public information session for Locke Avenue and the properties on Locke Avenue from just east of Jonathan Court to Highway 26 Urbanization. My name is Dan Perot. I'm the Deputy Director of Public Works for the Township of Clearview. I'll be the main presenter today. However, I do have Mike Ron. He is our Director of Public Works here with us tonight. He will be presenting a small portion of this presentation as well. We have Fawn Breeden, who's our Public Works Administrative Assistant, so she's here for some support. And we have Jennifer Georges and Rachel Walton from RJ Burnside here with us for some technical support. They are the township's engineers. So I'll get right to the presentation and share my screen. Hoping that's viewable. So again, tonight we're going to go through a presentation for the urbanization of Locke Avenue from just east of Jonathan Court to Highway 26. So the purpose of the meeting is to provide information to the residents on the street for cost recovery estimates for the urbanization, which include curb and gutter, plus sidewalk and storm sewer, and also the installation of sanitary sewers and the servicing to the properties, plus the replacement of water main and water service to the properties. Those properties include what you see on the screen, outlined in red. They are the properties on Locke across from the schools, the high school and the elementary school, and properties just east of Jonathan Court. So when we township does these types of projects, we look at certain acts and policies that allow us to proceed with these projects. One is the provincial policy statement, which sets out in particular the importance of clean water and wastewater, sewage water for properties within an urban boundary. And we'll get into this a bit later on in the presentation, but Section 391 of the Municipal Act does permit municipality to impose the fees to recuperate a portion of those costs to install such services. I'm going to pass this over to Mike right now. Mr. Ron is very familiar being with the municipality for several years, and that this has been looked at in the past, and this is just another piece of the puzzle. So I'll pass it to Mr. Ron.
Sure, thanks, Dan. And in 2 weeks' time, it's 25 years, so I've been around a while. So for those watching, well, obviously, if you're watching, you're familiar with the area because you're from the area. So the area shown here is, all kind of existing lots. Used to be on the north end of Locke Avenue, Township of Nottawasaga, and south of Locke Avenue was the town of Stayner. So when the amalgamation happened, this all is now in Clearview Township and within the Stayner settlement area. So the Stayner settlement area boundary runs right up to the 2728 side road. So that's the first main road north of town that goes past the Public Works facility. It's actually now County Road 96. But this area, years and years ago, there was a push to develop all of this area with water and sewer. It went to, I guess you would say, public meetings, and it was voted down. Now, the way the provincial policy statement works, so we have the Clearview official plan, as Dan said, the provincial policy statement. As we grow, we have to service within the settlement area, we have to service everything with water and sewer. Now, this is kind of a unique spot here. So north of this boundary, so if you follow Birchwood up north where Dan has his cursor there, that's the subdivision development called Emerald Creek Estates. We've been expecting them to move forward for a number of years. When they move forward, they're required to put a water main down Birchwood Boulevard. If you can just show that. And then from Birchwood Boulevard, they're also required to put a water main across to Jonathan Court. So anytime we have an opportunity to have a developer install services, it saves the township some money. There's an economy of scale there. When that happens, there will be another servicing bylaw. So anybody who benefits from the work that Emerald Creek does will also have to pay for their services. So along Birchwood Boulevard, there'll probably be new water main. When that happens, we'll also be, approaching council, same as what we're doing today, and asking them to put sewer services in there as well. Again, for the same reason, it's what we have to do inside the settlement boundary. So now we've got a street with no water main heading across to Jonathan Court. South of this street on Jonathan Court, straight down to Elm Street, which is across the railway tracks, and that lines up with Elm Street. A big 12-inch water main has to go through there again to help service the Emerald Creek Estates and other developments in the north end of Stainer. The reason we're not putting sewer in on Jonathan Court now is because we don't have the resources to put a 12-inch water main through that whole distance, nor the resources to put the water main from Jonathan Court down to Birchwood Boulevard. You might wonder, why are we doing this one little section of road right now here? Well, for those of you who live in the area, right, everybody knows the two schools there. We've now finally got an easement through the Jonathan Court to Elm Street walkway. But when you come out that walkway, the kids are walking right out into, a busy street, and across the street, there's no sidewalk. It's parking, which is also dangerous if they come out between the cars. So township would love to have done this whole project, spent millions of dollars and completed the whole thing, but we just don't have the debt capacity. So we're taking it one piece at a time, starting with the most critical. And that's the piece, where the kids are crossing the sidewalk, crossing the road. In order to put sidewalks there, we have to urbanize the road. We're not going to urbanize the road without completing the water and the sewer on the road. There's also, I know there was one property at least in there, the septic was failing. So all of these things combined, say it's time to do this section. Dan has done a pretty good job, I'm going to say, putting this all together. I offered very little assistance. Your council has committed to funding $600,000 towards the urbanization of this road. And that's because, this isn't a Locke Avenue property owner problem. This is let's keep our kids safe problem. At the same time, because there is a benefit, the law says we have to charge you for that benefit. So I think I've about covered it. I think you're going to hear Dan talk about the cost here. So this whole project is going to be about $1.7 million. And what we're recouping from the residents is about $225. So it sounds like a lot of money when you look at how much you're paying individually. But if you had to pick up the cost on your own, like if you were in a new subdivision, the cost would be much higher. And it's important for people to understand that. I think that's all I got, Dan. If any other questions?
I didn't. Mike, did you want to go through how we kind of got here? Or I think you may have covered that, but we have a couple other slides here as far as how this all came about, just where the sanitary came and how it got there with the school.
So there is a pipe, the sanitary pipe that the high school put in. And at the time when they put that pipe in, the sewer plant didn't have capacity. So they put the pipe in, they put some service connections in. Nobody was allowed to connect to them, and nobody paid for any of that work. So now that we're going to start to utilize that pipe, we're collecting the money for that pipe. And if you just go back to that other slide, Dan. So because there is one pipe that's going to benefit this entire area, the money that we take in for charging to connect to that pipe will go to benefit this entire area. So when you see the sewer costs that we're gonna put in the servicing bylaw, you're not paying 100% of what it would cost to put sewers in here. But there is a shared benefit from the existing pipe that was put in. At the east end of Locke Avenue in 2018, we did a servicing bylaw there, and it's the exact same concept, the same financial plan. All of these homeowners from lots 32 up to 42, they all paid for water and sewer services, and the money that they've paid for the sewer services is going towards servicing this entire area with sewers. Again, benefiting from a pipe that Stainer Collegiate had installed many years ago. So you see where the water line stops on Locke Avenue. So that's the blue line is the water line, and you can see the little red and yellow, that's a fire hydrant. The developer, Emerald Creek, has to carry the water main from there down to where we're building it and then up to their subdivision. I think that's about covers it.
Thanks.
It's weird. I feel like I'm on TV.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. So many of you probably not seen this, but this is the plan. Burnside's done a great amount of work to get this plan presented. So here is what is proposed for the road. So urbanization means new curb and gutter on both sides of the road. So curbs with storm sewer installed. New sidewalk. New sidewalk would be installed on the south side of Locke Avenue, all the way down to Jonathan Court. There's going to be a realignment or reconfiguration of the sidewalk at Highway 26. Currently, the sidewalk is here and crosses down at this location. We're going to make it a cars stop here. Pedestrians can walk across when cars are stopped, following this sidewalk reconfiguration. The existing school crossing. Oh, sorry. Apologize. Go back. Clicked. Existing school crossing is here right now. That will be eliminated and moved further down Locke. So as Mr. Ron had indicated, a couple of years ago, we installed the new sidewalk through an easement across from Elm to Jonathan. We needed to do that because the Bing school was closing and had to get those students to here. In a perfect scenario, we would have liked to have done this at the same time. Unfortunately, we weren't there. So sidewalk will continue here. The school crossing guard, a school crossing area, will be moved down to this location. And you can see here on I'll call it the landing area for the pedestrians, that there will be a sidewalk connection to the existing sidewalk. And then this area will be like a raised asphalt area. So there will be elimination of some parking in this location. The urbanization will continue on the north side past the school entrance here. The urbanization, or the curb and gutter portion of this, will end in this location. So there will be no curb and gutter along this, but there will be a storm sewer. So there's a storm sewer system in that location. And then this is just how it finishes off, just past the school entrance. So that's the proposed work for this project. And the water main in termination point will be just past number 20. And the storm sewer will discharge just in front of 21. And then there'll be some ditch improvements required along the rest of Locke for a portion of the work. So here's a cost estimate. Like Mr. Ron said, the subtotal for the works is about $1.6 million. There's some contract admin and some geotechnical requirements, but there's also some contingencies that we'll talk about later. So for the construction cost recovery, based on the cost estimates that we've received, each resident will be charged $287.42 per meter for frontage, plus $2,000 for sewer service lateral. And for water, it's $311.90 per meter, and $2,000 for water services. So properties that are currently connected to the municipal water system are not required to pay this. Those replacement costs are built into the rates, so that when we do come and replace water mains, that those properties will not be charged for that. And then there is a percentage charge, or sorry, a proportionate charge for urbanization. So it's the cost for the storm sewer, the curb, the gutter, sidewalk, etc. And I might just go back to here that as part of the project, we are not only installing new sanitary sewers along this location, we are replacing the water main along here as well, up to Jonathan. There is a water main that comes up here and services the school, and this area over here. There's no water main past that. We are installing new water main across here and connecting to the sanitary sewer at Jonathan and Locke. So properties that would require connection to the new sanitary sewer are 1357 Locke Avenue. They all have 25-meter frontages. They'd be charged the sanitary sewer and urbanization. Like I said, there will not be charged the water main portion because they're already connected to water. And then number 1 Jonathan, which is at the corner of Jonathan, the southwest corner of Jonathan and Locke. They have a slightly larger frontage along Locke, so their frontage is a little bit bigger. Properties that are required to connect to water east of Jonathan are 1719. Those the 5 lots east, like I said, to the limits. Again, these properties have 25-meter frontages. These 2 properties have 30-meter frontages. They will also be required to, like Mr. Ron had indicated, that the sanitary sewers that were installed back a number of years ago, these properties were never charged a connection fee at the time. They will be at this point. And there are 2 properties that we've kind of pointed out. 11 Locke Avenue is currently a vacant parcel of land. They will have both sewer and water services installed to the property line. And number 3 Jonathan Court, there is a portion or a potential for a lot creation in the future with the installation of municipal services. That potential lot can be created once those services are installed. So they will be they will have a combined service charge of sanitary, the water, and the urbanization, and those both those properties have 25-meter frontages. This is probably what everybody is interested in, or what would be interested in, and what their property, their lot would be charged at the time of installation of the services. So you'll see here the addresses for all the properties. Like it indicated, for example, 1357, 25-meter lot frontages, and they would be charged $287 per meter, plus a $2,000 sewer lateral charge, and $178 per meter, for a total of $13,635.50. And Locke Avenue and 3 Jonathan Court. It indicated both vacant lots with potential severance for 3 Jonathan Court. They would be charged the water, sewer, and urbanization for $23,433. The properties east of Jonathan are these 5 properties here. Again, based on their frontages, they'd be charged the water, sewer, and only a portion of the urbanization charges, because there's going to be no curb and gutter and sidewalk in front of there. So there's only a portion for the storm sewer and some ditch improvements. So as Mike had indicated, the total amount that we would be collecting from the benefiting landowners, so all those properties that I have gone through, will contribute $225,000 toward the $1.74 million total. That 1.74, I know it doesn't match up with the cost estimate. We have not included the contingency. We feel that the municipality, based on what the tender amount is going to be and the contingency built in, that we can absorb that contingency if it happens or if it comes. In the 2022 budget, your council has allotted certain funds from our different budget areas to go towards this project. So $405,000 will go from our water budget, $648,000 from our roads budget. A few years ago, council initiated a $250,000 urbanization reserve. So we are going to use that reserve for 2020. Oops, sorry, I apologize again. $250,000 from that urbanization reserve to go to this project, and $211,000 was budgeted in our sanitary sewer budget. The proposed payment options for this is there's 2 options. One is to pay a full amount, and that a full amount is due 30 days following the completion of the project, which means that once all the costs have been tallied and we've received all bills and invoices for this project, we will come up with a final cost for all the project. So residents would have an option to pay the full amount within 30 days of receiving the invoice, or there's a choice to pay the full amount over 20 years. Council has in the past allowed that amount to be spread over 20 years and put on the tax bill. They're not open loans, so if you do choose to put it on your taxes as a loan, they are not open and they are there for 20 years. And I think that is the end of the presentation. I do have some questions that have come in prior to this meeting. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to go to those questions. If you bear with me. I'm not going to put the questions up, but I will stay on camera here. So a resident has inquired that I'm sure that I will be just one of many who want to ask about the effect this will have on the schools while the project is undertaken. Will the project only be allowed to occur in holiday time, or will construction only happen between 9 and 2 and on weekends? So we anticipate that this project will be tendered fairly shortly, within the next few weeks. we hope to award the contract in May. That still has to go to council. We still have to pass the bylaw if agreeable from council. So those things have to happen first. And with mobilization of the contractor in early June to begin some works that will not disrupt school, the traffic that's generated at the school, and that once school is out, so for the months of July and August, that the majority of the what I'll call the dangerous construction with the digging, the underground works that required for water main and sanitary sewer installation will take place during the school the school summer recess, and that the finishing touches, I'll call it, can be done in accordance with school scheduling. A resident from 1 Locke Avenue, which is at the corner of Highway 26 and Locke, has inquired with will they have to pay more? No, like I indicated, there's a 25-meter frontage fee for that property. You do not have to pay the frontage for Highway 26. This property is currently on septic. Will this mean that they would have to go on town sewers? Yes. We will require these properties to connect to sanitary sewers. They're quite concerned about the cost. Will they need to be paid at once or through a payment plan? So I had indicated in the presentation, it's 30 days following the completion of the project. We have all the costs, and they have a choice to pay over a 20-year period. Another resident from 3 Locke Avenue. When will the urbanization sewers be starting? So I explained that in the first first question. What are the options towards paying this? Again, 30 days following the completion, and there is an option to pay over 20 years. Do they need to hire a plumber to hook everything up inside their house? So yeah, a qualified person will be required, as well as a plumbing permit from the municipality, from the township's building department, and that reconnection, we'll call it, or connection to the new services would have to be inspected by the township building inspectors. What happens to the septic tank and bedding underground? It's required to decommission the septic upon connection of the sanitary sewer. The septic tank is to be pumped out and filled with sand as part of the decommissioning. A part of that. The owners of 3 Jonathan Court, if they decide to hook up to sewer for future severance, will it affect any of the Clearview bills? So there are no base charges until a connection is made. So, presumably if a severance were to be issued or granted for that portion of that property, then once the connection is made, or presumably a building permit is issued, then that fee would be charged at that time. 15 Locke Avenue, is there a time limit in place to bring the water and sewer into my home? Historically, when we've done this in the past, that time limit has been 2 years. So it's a little different than paying the amount or choosing to pay the amount of the connection fee, but to make the connection from where the sewer, the services are dropped off, is 2 years to connect it into your house. Is there not already a water line on Locke Avenue, and will a new water main be run? So I explained that again, that a portion of Locke Avenue has water main, existing water main. We're installing a new water main along there. So just to upgrade it while we're doing this project. And then landowner on Jonathan Court Is this a proposal or an announcement for the urbanization? I guess it's both. I had indicated that we're going to tender this spring for that work. I see you are bringing services, water, sewer to the top of Jonathan Court along Locke. When is this going to take place? I think I've answered that. Is the township, is it the township that are paying for these services to be run along Locke, or a developer? I think I've outlined that in my responses. Has Emerald Creek Estates established a new water source yet? Mike Ron touched on that. They have to bring a water main up Elm Street across this easement that we've secured between Elm and Jonathan, and then up Jonathan. Does the township have plans to run services down Jonathan Court as well? Again, Mr. Ron had indicated that there are plans. When that will happen is unsure. It really depends on the developer, Emerald Creek, on how quick they want to proceed. So hopefully I've answered the question. Those are the questions that we received through the portal. That is my presentation as well. I believe Clerk Helmke, do we have participants that wish to ask question?
Thank you, Mr. Perot. We do. Adam Steves would like to pose a question to you and RJ Burnside. I'm just going to promote him as a panelist. Hi, Adam. You're in the Zoom meeting. You can turn on your camera and you can address Mr. Perot and Mr. Ron.
I'm unmuted. I'm just trying to turn my camera on here. There we go. That should be it. Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my call. I just like to say that I'm very happy with this project happening because I own 21 Locke Street, and it's hasn't had water and the ability to connect to the sewers. So it's undevelopable, and I know that the mandate for Ontario is to cut down on urban sprawl and create dwellings within our boundaries. Now, watching your promotion, your video, curbs and sidewalks are not going to go by 21 Locke Street, from what I gather. And there's going to be a rodent grate in front of my property. How will that affect me accessing the property with a driveway?
Yeah, so I will I'll bring that up again here a sec. Hopefully we can. I'll share that drawing here again. And I just have to share. So can you see the drawing?
I can.
Okay. I'm uncertain what people can or can't see. So I'll zoom in here. You're the owner of 21?
Correct.
So the storm sewer will come along here. There'll be a manhole out front. This is a pipe that's that would be underground with an outlet here. Now, good thing RJ Burnside is here. So, this is a great idea to come on and maybe see if we can make some adjustments. So there's a potential that, maybe we can shift this down if it works. I might have to call on Jennifer, or Rachel. But if we don't have an answer today, we certainly could give you an answer that this is the end of the storm sewer, and this is a pipe underground to an outlet area here. So, a driveway or something that could be fit into a certain location on your property as well. probably a bit more flexibility if this could be moved further to the east. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you?
Oh, it does, absolutely.
Yeah.
I suppose I have this brings up a lot of questions because
Right.
I had a conversation the other day with Christine Taggart at planning as to what I can do with this property, because I didn't have sewer and water. So I was in a waiting pattern here until something happened. And I would like to develop the property as soon as I can. These sewers and water going in this summer, that's fantastic. But there's kind of a gray area with the zoning RM4 as to whether I could put a fourplex on there, or whether it needs to be rezoned, or whether it could be divided into 2 units. And with all of that, with nothing planned for it, we don't even know if we want 2 sewers and 2 water laterals for this property. We don't know if we want 2 driveways. There should be some coordination here as to what can be done and what we're going to do as to how this gets whatever gets done in front of the property. And that's a statement, I suppose, more than a question.
Yeah, and I think we just became aware, ourselves, Mike and I think yesterday or the day before, that you had had that conversation with Christine and Mara Burton, the director of planning, had laid out a bit of a scenario in an email. So perhaps probably the best thing would be to talk with planning. We can be there, with a discussion with planning. We want to do this sooner rather than later. We want to get this out to tender as well. Right. It may not, adding an extra line to a tender this size, is just a bit of a extra cost. Obviously you would have to pay extra amount of charges for that, depending on what you decide. So, Mike, did you want to speak to that a little bit more?
So this is exactly why we have public meetings, Adam, right? So we've created a design, the idea of moving the storm to where it is there now. And the reason, so Emerald Creek is supposed to install the water all the way to Jonathan Court. However, to get this infrastructure out of the intersection, away from the school parking area, our engineers looked at this and we brought it out to right where that storm scepter is, or that the relief into the ditch, right? Like, on paper in the field, it's an empty lot. So we have a public meeting, we send out notification, now this is exactly what the meeting's for. We get input from you. If there's potential to do more with that lot and you would like to have urbanization across the front of that lot, we can make those adjustments before the tender goes out, or we can make them in the field after the tender's out. It's a little more expensive that way because we would have to do what's called a change order. But this is good information.
This would be temporary in nature too, right? To Mike's point, that once Emerald Creek comes in and they have to do the work, in along this area, this, I suspect, or I would expect that this the storm sewer would continue on down the road, and urbanization would follow in future years, right? So it's temporary in nature for now, probably for quite many years, but again, temporary in nature. But having a discussion now and like I said, in the next few weeks, on what is or is not allowed to happen on your property is probably the best thing to happen, just because it would be an appropriate time to skirt, either install another sanitary service or an extra water lateral or water service. So
yeah, like I'm open to options. It's what the council, what everybody wants, is what I'm willing to work with. Like if you guys want me to put 2 single family there, that's fine. If you want me to put a fourplex on there, that's fine. I'm open to all of that, but we should get the laterals and water in that are going to be according to what you guys want me to do there.
Yeah.
So again,
Well,
if I can, Dan,
Yep.
so we've done these a number of times. You know, 20 years ago, we did the whole village of Creemore and everyone paid this, what we're talking about for frontage for anybody that's listening. It's the same that it has been for 30 years. The pipes go in, everyone pays the frontage in front of their houses, whether it's storm pipe or sewer pipe or water pipe. And then everyone pays for their individual connection. So the lateral, that's the sewer pipe that comes from the main to the property line. You know, $2,000 or $3,000 for that. It's been the same forever. So, you know, right up until the construction is complete, you know, to add another lateral is the price of the lateral, right? It's $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah.
So I think, I'm not going to speak for the planning department, but typically what I've seen here for a number of years is they like to keep the neighborhoods looking the same. Probably if 2 houses on a lot that big would probably be very reasonable in Clearview. Again, that's up to you in the planning department, but I would certainly support putting an extra set of services in there from the public works department.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can, sorry, just to interject. So I could either I would suggest that maybe some type of pre-consultation or just a quick meeting with planning and myself. You know, again, within the next few weeks would probably be the best. I think it's probably beyond the point of changing the tender and all that kind of stuff that we have prepared just for, you know, a bit of a change order once it's awarded. Again, not anything that's critical at this point. But I guess the question to Rachel or Jennifer, can we look at maybe just extending that? I don't know how big a change that is to work at just looking at maybe shifting that to the east, that outlet.
Yeah, we can look into that. I don't think that should be a huge problem, but again, something we'll have to just take a look at and look at the grades and stuff. But yeah.
Okay. And that will give you more flexibility, Adam, on you know where you put your entrances or potential couple entrances or the one entrance. Just gives a bit more flexibility. Move it closer to the property line, etc.
So should I speak to Christine about setting up a meeting with you, Dan? And we can discuss
Mara.
this? Or?
Yep.
Okay.
Probably with Mara, myself, and if Christine would be involved, but maybe another planner. We'll see. But I would reach out to Christine again, just say, you know, further to tonight's meeting, you know, I had suggested that we meet fairly soon just to go over what the needs are for that property, okay. And we can work that into to construction.
Yeah, we don't want to do work twice.
No, certainly don't.
The other question I had was the percentage on the loan. You said that we could either pay it all up front or we could put it over 20 years. What is the interest rate on that? Is it the same as not paying your taxes, 1.5% per month, or?
Yeah. I think the financial people were looking at, I want to say 3, but I can look that up because we've just gone through the same thing on another portion of Stainer, Sunnydale Street. So those numbers are in a report. Our financial director is not with us tonight, so she usually answers those questions. But I'll see if I can find that while you're still going, Dan.
Thanks.
Okay.
So it's a loan. It's a loan through the government entity, you know, that we can seek on behalf of the residents. That paid through the taxes. So it probably a little better maybe than the bank, as the banks are going now.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Okay, well, I think that's the only questions I had at this time.
Okay. Sasha, did we have any more participants?
Thank you, Dan. No, Adam was our only participant coming in tonight's meeting.
Okay. Well, I thank everyone. Thank you, Mr. Steves, for attending. Thank you to the staff and our support staff. We will be following up this presentation with a report to council. So if you are listening to this, you have any questions, please send them on through. I think the portal will stay up. I could be reached at the municipal office as well. My phone number here at the office is 705-428-6230, extension 230. So if you need to get a hold of me, please reach me. And that's everything. I think we're done, unless Mike has more input on the percentage.
I'm sorry, I don't. I do believe it was 3% was the number they were using. And I think that was conservative, right? Like, we don't want to tell somebody 2 and then have the interest rates go up, but
So Adam, I could probably have that information to you when we have another meeting here in the next little bit with planning staff.
Fire Dan an email, and that's literally a phone call to our financial director, and she'll have that on the top of her head.
Okay.